Thank you for coming tonight, and we are very pleased to be welcoming Tracey Phillips, author of Best Kept Secrets, a thriller that I highly recommend reading. And without further ado, I'll hand things over to Tracey.
Thanks so much, Anne, and thanks for inviting me to the McFarland Library event. This is very exciting for me.
Excellent.
So I'm here to talk about Best Kept Secrets tonight. And so if you don't know about my book, I'll just give you a little bit of introduction about it. I was published by Crooked Lane Books last October, and so this is my debut book, and it's been very exciting getting out there and being part of the writing community and part of just all of the amazing thriller authors and mystery authors. And so I've been really having a great time just getting my book out there and talking to people about it. So thanks so much for coming today. Best Kept Secrets is, I'm just going to read you the cover so that you know what it's about. Morgan Jewell and Faye Ramsey are enjoying their last summer together before college. Faye is shy with a controlling mother, and Morgan is perfect, wild, loudmouthed yang to Faye's yin. But when Faye is found dead, Morgan's entire world crumbles. Years later, Morgan is still haunted by the abrupt end to her best friend's life. She knew Faye held a secret in those final days, but Morgan, now a homicide detective, has failed to make a picture out of the crooked puzzle pieces she left behind. Nothing makes sense, and the leads have run dry until she's called to the scene of a murder, a woman whose body is left mangled, too similar to Faye's to ignore. Could it be? Morgan vowed to do right by Faye, and this is the case that she's been waiting for to set her back on the killer's trail. But the closer she gets, the harder it forces her to confront the memories of herself and her best friend. What was her secret? What got Faye killed? Maybe Morgan didn't know Faye at all. So there's your little intro. Tonight I've decided to read chapters 11 and 12. So I'll just give you a little lead in, and the reason why I'm reading not the first chapter is because chapter 11 introduces a second crime, and chapter 12 introduces my protagonist. Best Kept Secrets is not a traditional detective mystery. I have designed it more like a thriller with 2 points of view. So it has my main character, the detective, Morgan, and also the point of view of the protagonist, Karen Klein. So leading up to chapter 11, Morgan has requested access to a crime scene that looks familiar to Faye's murder. So she's been investigating this crime that is a recent crime, like it just happened. And then this is what happens. 2 bloodhounds led by Indiana Canine Patrol detectives sniffed the frosty, leaf-covered ground. Parked behind a pile of dirt and upturned tree roots, a bulldozer sat like a silent, sleeping monster. Morgan yawned, tired and regretful that she wasn't exactly at the top of her game this morning. Rob had stayed again last night. Still sleeping, he had been in her bed when she got the call before sunup. She'd quietly dressed and given Greta a bowl of water before Donnie picked her up. Rob was a good bet for a steady, normal, and predictable life. He had all the best qualities. He was honest and hardworking, dependable and supportive. He was every girl's dream guy. But it scared her that she was falling for him. Stability and security weren't exciting. When they dated last year, Morgan had requested a break while Rob worked the night shift. He made it clear that she was right for him and told her he'd give her all the time she needed. What she really needed was time to decide if the relationship was right for her. His idea of a future together might not fit into her career dreams. Morgan didn't see herself always working as an Indianapolis detective. For now, she liked waking up next to Rob. And she had left him a note on the kitchen table inviting him to stop by any time. Half awake, she stumbled over rough terrain. Rocks and broken branches lay covering an uneven ground at the site, slated for development of a new strip mall. The planned urban growth should be standing here by next year, and now it was delayed. A body exhumed late yesterday lay in a scoop of earth in front of one dozer. The discovery halted all progress. The forensic squad was in process of digging remains and rotten clothing out from the upturned earth. They placed garments and bones on a clean black tarp, attempting to reconstruct the bulldozed body as it had been before the diggers scooped it up. A dirt-soaked blanket, pulled from a pile, lay in a heap near two faded, pinkish jelly shoes. A weathered man wearing a camouflage hunting jacket blew smoke from a cigarette toward Donnie. How much longer? He scratched his shaved head with yellowed fingers that held a burning butt. Donnie waved the cloud of smoke away from his face. I can't tell you exactly. These things take time. The construction project manager eyed Morgan up and down. His glare stopped at her breasts. Well, look, my crew has another job next week. I can't afford to hold off progress. The investors are breathing down my back to get this thing moving again. Morgan stooped to make eye contact with the man. What you've uncovered here are likely the remains of a murder victim. Those remains are part of a crime scene, you understand? We can't let you disturb any more of the area until we've finished scouring it. The man looked down at Morgan's chest, covered by a black leather jacket. He squinted and flicked his cigarette butt into the dirt and stepped on it. To his right, 4 acres had been scraped by bulldozers. Behind him, a stack of tree trunks and brush, the size of a small building, was ready to be chipped and hauled away. About 2 acres of woods to his left remained untouched. The 2 teams of cadaver dogs moved between the trees. So, Jerry, is it? We have to remove the body and check the area for evidence, she explained. Donnie added, it might take weeks. We just don't know. Pointing a nicotine-stained finger at Donnie's face, Jerry said, we gotta prep this area for development by the end of October. You better get done in a hurry. My men need to get paid. He walked away mumbling something derogatory under his breath. Low life, Morgan said to no one in particular. I can't believe Holbrook sent us out here this morning. Didn't she have someone else? Stanley Williams, for instance? She blew a cloud puff into the cold morning air. Donnie eyed Morgan with suspicion. I know why I didn't sleep last night. What's up with you? Oh, nothing. Morgan looked at the ground and kicked a dirt clod as they walked toward the bulldozer. You know you can't lie to me. Who is it? Morgan held back a smile as Donnie fired off a half a dozen names of likely candidates. The last guess was Rob Gibson. Rob Gibson? Why would you think he has anything to do with my late nights? Just a lucky guess. By the way, I wanted to let you know that nothing but dirt was found under Hallie's fingernails. But forensics did discover a couple of short hairs that didn't belong to her. They were in her sheets. That's good, Donnie said. The hairs were dyed brown with some cheap over-the-counter hair product. Morgan stepped around a small boulder. There were dark half circles under Donnie's eyes. What color was it originally? Blonde. So we're looking for someone who dyes their hair blonde. Who dyes their blonde hair brown? That's easy. Half the women in the country dye their hair. Remember, she's engaged to a man, Grumpy. Damn energy drinks. I think I fell asleep around 3. You shouldn't drink that shit at night, damn Donnie. Now you tell me. Etta drinks it all the time, he said. Morgan put her hands in her pockets and strolled over to the forensics team. Etta shouldn't drink it either. Tell your daughter it's full of toxic chemicals. The pair walked, careful of where they stepped, to the mound of earth where a tall, lanky man crouched over the ruined body. What have we got, Lyle? Donnie asked. Nearby, a filthy North Side High School sweatshirt lay on a tarp. Lyle Erickson, the forensic specialist, patted off his gloved hands. Well, it's a young girl, 15 to 20. 2 ribs and left clavicle are broken, but from blunt force trauma. The face of the skull was destroyed. Could the bones have been broken by the bulldozer moving them? Morgan asked. Lyle shook his head. These fractures happened before death, including the ones to the face. Cause of death? Morgan knelt and looked closely at the skull. Dragged into the bushes beside Jackson Creek, Faye had been struck in the face with a heavy object, too. The creek bed was searched for a weapon, but no evidence was found. Look at this, Lyle pointed to the skull. There was significant traumatic impact above the teeth. You can see how the blow cracked the surrounding bone. Over time, decay and nature dissolved the tissue and these bones fell apart, he said. This wouldn't have killed her, but likely the blow to her nose did. Her face was destroyed. Indeed, Morgan gaped at the shattered bone between the eyes and above the teeth. Like Hallie and Faye? She looked for the corpse's hands. A gunshot might do that, Donnie said. There's no exit wound. Lyle knelt down beside Morgan and pointed at the skull. Also, there's no buckshot or bullets inside the skull. 3 upper and lower teeth were missing or broken, creating a circular hole. It was a brutal act, then. Donnie shifted his weight and yawned. This was no accident. The body was buried 2 feet underground, Lyle speculated. Morgan had an incredible, crazy thought. It had to do with Faye again. So she knew it was part of that old obsession. Her gut churned at the possible connections to this case and to Hallie. She had to know. Were her hands intact or broken? The bones weren't shattered, if that's what you're asking. However, since the site was plowed up by a bulldozer, it'll be impossible to tell if her fingers were broken at the joints before she died. Why do you ask? Hallie Marks had been struck in the face too, she said to Donnie. Donnie gave her a look that Morgan took to mean he didn't want her drawing too many conclusions just yet. She turned to Lyle. How old are these remains? Lyle answered, 15 or 20 years. Are you sure? She asked. I'm sure, Lyle told them. She was attacked from the front. The impact wounds are all over her face. Either she was surprised and attacked head on, or Donnie finished the sentence. Someone held her while another person bludgeoned her to death. Are 2 killers working together? Morgan voiced the question in her mind. Lyle removed his soiled latex gloves and stepped down from the mound of earth. He was still a good 3 inches taller than Donnie and towered over Morgan. Inform the developers that this is a homicide and the investigation will halt their progress. We have to scour this area for a weapon. What was she hit with? Donnie asked. Something heavy, like keeping his gaze on the skeleton. Lyle bared his teeth and sucked air between them. A rock was the first image that popped into Morgan's mind, and it frightened her. She took a step backward and said, like a hammer. That would work, Lyle nodded. Morgan looked out into the woods. The dogs, led by the canine patrol, were sniffing along the edge of the uncut woods about 40 yards away. Chapter 12. Karen. Adding 1 to the number of times she had driven to Oak Creek Condominium's parking lot, Karen Klein committed the number 2,034 to memory. It had been dark 1,382 times. Also, she'd parked in this particular spot 867 times. She liked to keep track. It made her feel more in control. Karen, you okay? Brad Olafson, a neighbor, knocked on the car window. She shut off her engine, popped the trunk, and then climbed out with her purse in tow. You okay, Karen? Geez, I knocked on the window like 100 times. It wasn't 100. It was 42, Karen thought. You okay? Brad, the condo association manager and self-proclaimed on-site handyman, lived in the next building. They had met at the pool the first summer she lived here 4 years and 5 months ago, 1,582 days. I'm fine, she answered as nicely as she could manage and stepped around to the trunk of the car. While lifting the hatch, she pulled her sleeve back, exposing a trickle of blood dripping down the back of her hand. Color drained from Brad's face. What's that on your arm? Did you hurt yourself? It's nothing, Brad. Karen had scraped it along the sharp edge of an open drawer at work. A little blood didn't bother her. She wiped it off with a tissue and thought it was fine. Apparently, the cut was deeper than she thought. She wanted to get inside and examine it in private. Removing a green Army issue shoulder bag from the trunk, she closed the hatch and turned toward her building. Are you sure? I could bandage that up for you. He followed at her heels, panting like a good little dog. I hate for you to be all alone. You seem out of it. You want me to stay for a while to make sure you don't, pass out or something? Maybe you lost a lot of blood. She reached the outer door to her building and unlocked it, eager to get away from the idiot. With a calm, placating voice at the tip of her tongue, she said, Thanks for checking on me, Brad, but concluded with a heavy dose of patronizing. You can go off and find someone else to bother now. He never got the hint, no matter how cruel she was. If they had dated, she would have dumped him hard. But Karen had said no the first, 5th, and 20th time he had asked her out. He was still trying. Hey, I've got a few brewskis in my fridge. I'll bring them over to your place. No, Brad. Mac is coming by. Is he your boyfriend? Is Mac your boyfriend? Without answering, Karen ducked into the foyer and let the outer door swing closed on Brad. Climbing the stairs to the 3rd floor, she counted 5 on the first flight, 12 after that, then 10 and 10. 37 total. She knew the exact number of steps to her floor because every time she counted, every time the total was the same. There was security in that. Her landline was ringing as she opened her door. Thinking that it was single-minded and persistent Brad, she answered, Brad, I said, there you are. Hey, it wasn't Brad. I tried your cell. You didn't answer. I shut it off. With the cordless pressed to the side of her face, Karen walked into the dark living room and flipped on the light. Hi, Mac. Gilroy McIntosh and Karen had been seeing each other for over 20 months. 20 months, 2 weeks, and 5 days, or 622 days. Brad bothering you again? The voice on the other end of the line soothed her nerves like cool running water over a burn. You guessed it. She placed the green satchel on the floor and sat down on the new couch, barely sinking into soft cushions. What time is it? 6:30. You just get in? Just. How was your day? Did you enjoy tormenting and torturing the employees of Garrison Electric? I suppose you sufficiently whipped them into submission. Karen loved her job. She was an associate CPA for the Indianapolis Office of Accounting. She got to spend her days with numbers, not people. Numbers never lied, and they never left you. Yes, they cower in fear, the little lackeys. A thin smile graced her lips. I'll let you whip me if you want, he invited cheerfully. Karen hoped he meant it. Are you coming over? Am I? Mac was easy. Can you get away from her? She asked. I'll make it happen. With the phone in one hand, she peeled a multicolored infinity scarf off over her head. The scarf matched everything she owned. It had little flecks of blue, green, red, and yellow, and orange, the color of the itchy wool sweaters she was wearing. Mac had bought them both for her. Can you bring dinner? I didn't have time to go to the grocery, he finished her sentence. Of course I can. Do you want carry out from Chang's? Her stomach growled. I don't care. Sure. Seriously, Mac queried. What would you eat if I didn't keep bringing you food? Nothing. Pop-Tarts. I would probably starve. She smiled to herself. See you soon. Mac hung up. He wasn't one for goodbyes on the phone. Leaning back on her comfortable, colorless couch, Karen brushed the fibers in one direction, erasing any marks. It was new, like most of the furniture she had, and had a soft as suede finish. As a result of Mac's pitiless nudging, she'd finally sprung for upgrades to her living arrangements. Before Mac, she had slept on a futon on the floor. Her dresser was one she'd found on the street during her college years. Her neighbor gave her 3 wooden bar stools for the kitchen when she moved away to New York, and she owned a ratty flower print chair that she bought at Goodwill while shopping for clothes one day. It wasn't that she didn't have the money. Her job at the Indiana Office of Accounting paid well, and being single, she accrued very few expenses. Comfort wasn't in her vocabulary before Mac. Truthfully, Karin didn't know how her apartment looked. Mac did, though. I'm going to read that again. Truthfully, Karin didn't care how her apartment looked. Mac did, though, and he was on his way over. She pulled back her sleeve. A 2-inch gash was just below her elbow on the top side of her arm. It was deep. On the way to the bathroom, she took off her orange sweater. Blood had soaked the inside of the sleeve, so she threw water on the sweater, on the floor, planning to soak it in woolite later. Without waiting for the water to warm up, she plunged her arm under the faucet, splashing fresh red blood on the countertop. So that's a little flavor of Best Kept Secrets for you. I was hoping to open this up into conversation, so
great. If anyone who's participating, if you have a question, type it in the Q&A and I'll see it and read it out loud. Please feel free to jump in at any time. And then I have some questions for Tracey. Hopefully she'll be good enough to answer them. So,
absolutely.
One thing that you touched on earlier was traditional detective stories and how much the mystery genre encompasses right now, from, you know, psychological suspense, crime novel, thriller, with such a big overlap in the subgenres. Did you find it difficult to categorize your book at all?
I did, and you know, it's not that I don't love a good detective story, because I do, but having the 2 points of view made it not really fit into that genre. So, you know, when I was pitching it, I pitched it more as a psychological suspense thriller, even though it has a detective. So,
excellent. I can see that. And then the title. Did you come up with that yourself?
Nope. Though my publisher did. I had originally called it Fractured Girl for a lot of reasons. And my publisher said, you know, the day of the girl books is gone, which isn't really the case, because I think we see more and more girl books coming out all the time. But, you know, for a lot of different reasons, I called it that. Though this is a pretty cool story, though. I always like to bounce my ideas off my family and talk to them about my stories. And my son is an artist. So before I got my traditional publishing contract, he told me that he really wanted to make the cover for Fractured Girl for me. Sure. And he had this vision that was, you know, there's a woman standing in the dark and she's looking into a broken mirror and there's broken glass all around her face. So you'll notice the cover of the story has the broken glass around the eye. Mm-hmm. Well, the cool thing was when Crooked Lane showed me the cover, we hadn't had that discussion with them at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was like deja vu, or like, I don't know, like, you know, kismet or something. It was just, we saw the cover and went, it was so amazing that they came up with this similar idea.
It fits with the story so well, too. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about Morgan Jewell, your protagonist. How did you come up with the character? How'd she become your protagonist?
Well, when I was writing, you know, my first early drafts, the character that I had in mind for this story was Karin. And so I knew Karin first. And in my writing process, my characters come and talk to me first. I get to meet them before I even know the story. I'll just know about the character and what they're up to. if they've done something, or if they need to solve something or whatever. And anyhow, so I knew Karen first, and I needed, I really essentially wrote her story first, but I needed a counterbalance to her. And I had been attending the Writers Police Academies that Sisters in Crime puts on.
Oh, cool.
And there, I mean, I went 3 years. They used to host it up in Appleton for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, very cool.
So I went up to it every time that I was able to, and they had first responders and police officers and the tobacco and firearms guys, ATF guys, and all these people, you know, there to talk to writers about how things really are in the world. And which is great because, you know, I personally don't know any police officers, or hadn't met any before I published this. But it was there that I developed my Morgan Jewell character. And I have more plans for her. I really want to write more books about Morgan and her story. I mean, I see her story going on and on. In fact, I've written another Morgan Jewell book that is in the hands of my Crooked Lane editor right now.
Wow.
But with the quarantine and or COVID and everything, she didn't know when they would be able to get around to it. So publishing industry has slowed down a little bit.
Definitely. That's exciting though. I want to know more about her after reading this book. So, and you touched on this too, but did you have to do, well, what kind of research did you start out doing for this, you know, to prep, and did you find any gaps, or what did you end up having to do to get this book finished?
You know, I didn't really think that there was a lot. There was a lot of research, actually. What intrigues me the most in my writing and my other stories that I've written is psychological issues. You know, things like borderline personality disorder and sociopathy and other psychological issues that people have. So I did a lot of research into that, and then I realized I needed to research a lot more about the police force and the police structure, and especially since the Indiana, the book is placed in Indiana, obviously, but the structure for the sheriff's department and the police department and all of that are different than they are here in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So there was a lot of research that went into that, and just figuring out the hierarchy and how all that works too.
Cool. And then you've mentioned numerous stories that you've written. Is this your dream career? Have you been a writer, you know, just all your life, or how did you come to this?
Nope. So my youngest son was in high school, and I think he was a junior in high school when I started fantasizing about vacations alone with my laptop. Just wanting to get away and put some stories down. I finally had an opportunity and some time off of work, and just my fingers hit the keyboard, and I had a manuscript done in like a few months, and I was like, yes. But you know, it wasn't really until I started going to conferences and meeting other authors and talking to people about writing that I realized, man, this is my tribe. I love these people, and that's how I felt like this is definitely what I really want to do with my life.
Excellent.
My day job, which is actually more like a night job, is I teach piano lessons.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm a musician, and I teach piano lessons usually after school hours into the evenings. So that gives me all my mornings free to write and do writing stuff.
Very nice.
And I love it.
Excellent. Oh, that sounds great. Let's see. And then, since this is a thriller and it is a, kind of a murder mystery too, you do spend a lot of time, how can somebody kill somebody else and, not be obvious? Has that come up with your family? Do you get side eye from your family or anything like that? Or has that affected your relationships at all?
Um, just a little bit. I have one cousin who absolutely is terrified to read it.
Oh, no.
I don't know what he's afraid of learning about me, but I think that's kind of funny. Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
I think I'm weird. Let me just put it that way.
And, oh gosh. Let me check quick questions. And then, being published, has that changed your writing process at all, or how you approach writing?
I think, the learning curve after Crooked Lane got their hands on my book and what they had me do to change it, and the things that they got me thinking about in terms of the story arc and what it has to do with what's happening now in the world, those kinds of things. And I think that's really important now too, with all that's going on in the world these days. Writers need to be relevant. They need to be, up to date with things that are happening, and just, and be aware of all of that. And I think, there's going to be a lot more stories coming out, where you'll see, the people in the public wearing masks, for example. One thing I found out for sure, that nobody's looking for a quarantine thriller. Because we all lived through that, and that was kind of our own personal thrillers, so nobody wants that book, and it totally makes sense, I think. But being relevant, about the race issues that are going on, and women's issues, and everything. It's really important in today's age.
Excellent, for sure. And so what are you working on now? Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, just this year I've done a lot of writing. I wrote another Morgan Jewell book, which is, like I said, in hold, or in a holding pattern right now. I also wrote another psychological thriller that I'm pitching to agents and trying to get published that way. And a lot of what I started thinking about during quarantine had to do with how writers need to pull together to support each other. So I started a group, which actually started out as a flash sale. I wanted to do something awesome for people who were stuck in quarantine without much for entertainment, looking for new books to read or whatever. And with the supply chain broken from publishers to bookstores, and bookstores were all closed, I reached out to a bunch of organizations like Mystery Writers Association and my Sisters in Crime local group, and some other groups, and asked if there were any writers who wanted to join me in a giant flash sale. And I got like 50 responses from authors all over the country. And so we put together a flash sale in May on Mother's Day weekend. And my husband and my daughter helped me to design a website and, get this idea launched. And we actually ended up with about 35 authors who participated, who were able to lower their prices and work with their publishers and get that, worked out. And many of the writers involved in the flash sale, which lasted just for the weekend, did great. We all got more sign-ons to our newsletters. We all got, sold a lot of books. Some people gave away 2,000 books. Yeah. So it was really, really successful. So afterwards, reached out to the group and was like, how can we follow up with this? And so I've sort of become the founder of this organization called Blackbird Writers. And I'll just show you the website really quick so that you can go to it. And I don't have it up. Hold on one second. Well, the website is blackbirdwriters.com. And this is, I'll just show you, these are the authors that are with us now. A lot of them are local authors. So for those of you McFarland peeps, if you're looking for other local authors to read, we're all mystery writers and or thriller writers. And so let's see, local authors, Christine Desmet and Valerie Beal and Joy Ann Reiber, also Jeff Nania, who wrote the Spider Lake thrillers, mysteries. So all of us are Wisconsin people writing, mysteries. And the rest of us also write. Some of us are cozy writers and some are thriller writers. And it's just a really great group of people. And so together we're trying to help support each other and like share our stuff on social media and just help each other to get our names out there, because in this day and age, I think it's the best way for us to to support each other.
That's wonderful. It's always cool to hear about people supporting each other, but then to be so organized and just welcoming of everyone, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Well, we're all doing a little bit for it. We're going to be having some live author interviews.
Very cool.
Many of the authors have new books coming out this month and next month. So yeah, if you follow it, is there, I don't know if can I type in the chat maybe the website?
I think you should be able to, yes.
Let me just do that really quick. So it's Blackbird Writers and blackbirdwriters.com. I didn't put it's www.blackbirdwriters.com. But follow us there and also sign up for the newsletter, because we planning on giving away lots of freebies. And right now we only have a quarterly newsletter, so we're not going to bombard your inbox or whatever. But you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at it's at Bird Writers. Oh, I'm terrible at this. This is the Twitter handle, and that's the Facebook name too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for being here tonight, and especially with your flexibility. I know we had scheduled earlier an in-person event, and then of course things. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and reading.
Can I say one more thing too?
Absolutely.
I'd like to, for everybody who's here, if you email me, I will give you a copy of my book, an ebook. So if you email me, I will send you a free copy of Best Kept Secrets. And that's my email address. And you can also go to my website and sign up for my newsletter. And I do giveaways every quarterly too. So don't bombard your inbox with all that stuff.
Great.
But love giveaways and love having folks, follow us and just say hello and come over and talk to us.
Excellent. Great. And what a generous giveaway. Thank you so much. So
yeah.
Excellent. So any other parting thoughts or?
I can't think of anything. I was just really happy to be here, and thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Really,
I can't wait till I can come down to the library again.
I know that it'll happen. It'll happen someday. We'll get it set up. And then maybe you'll have your new next Morgan Jewell book to talk about. So
I hope so.
yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who came. And
Yeah, thanks everyone.
yeah, we'll see you on social. Okay.
All right, great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, good night.
Bye.